Hello and welcome back to Damn Good Movie Memories. I'm your host, Brian Davis. For this episode, we're going to get into arguably one of the greatest movie directors ever, and that's Alfred Hitchcock. He's definitely one of my favorites. The cool thing about Hitchcock is his career was extremely long. It started in the 1920s during the silent era, and lasted all the way through to the mid-1970s until his death in 1980. He's well known for his TV show in the 1950s, but there are people that definitely enjoy his early work, his British films, and there are people that only know about his later era, in the late 50s and early 1960s. And so that's what the cool part about this discussion will be. You're going to have a wide range of people discussing, his early work who really appreciate that, and then you're going to hear people that really only know his better known films. And so with someone like Hitchcock, this is one of those cool directors that we could actually, get a wide range of subjects. So for me, I'm going to go through my top 10 list of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies. I'm not going to say that they're the best, but they are my favorite. Okay, for number 10 on my list, I'm going to go with The Lady Vanishes from 1938. This is a very cool early Hitchcock film and stars Margaret Lockwood, Michael Redgrave, and Dame May Whitty. So I always found it amusing that Hitchcock eventually made a movie called Strangers on a Train, because essentially The Lady Vanishes very easily could have been named the same thing. So if you don't know already, the plot involves Iris, played by Lockwood, meets a kind elderly woman named Mrs. Froy, and that's Dame May Whitty. And so she's traveling by train through Europe. However, soon after meeting Mrs. Froy, she disappeared, and everyone on board denies even seeing her on the train. So Iris is, incredulous, and that nobody has ever seen Mrs. Froy before, and so she begins to question her own sanity. Now, this kind of topic of questioning your own sanity is very common in Hitchcock films. But eventually, a man named Gilbert, and that's Michael Redgrave, believes Iris' story and offers to help find Mrs. Froy. So you're kind of going through these weird trials and tribulations to figure out, where could this woman have gone on the train? It's very Hitchcockian. And of course, like all Hitchcock movies, nothing is ever as it seems, and the movie kind of takes you on a wild ride. So number 9 on my list of favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies is Frenzy from 1972. This is one of his more underrated films, in my opinion. Many times I ask film buffs if they've ever seen this movie, and they often say no. I mean, they know, obviously, the classic Hitchcock films, but I think a lot of people kind of disregarded a lot of his films after the early 1960s, which is a shame because Frenzy is awesome, and it's a great murder mystery following a serial killer. So while it might not be as good as his best known work, it's definitely worth checking out. And part of the reason I think Frenzy might not be remembered is due to the cast not really featuring a big name star, and this kind of goes back to his British roots. So again, the movie follows a serial killer in London who the police cannot track down, and so they believe they have their man, but of course they really don't. And it's a Hitchcock film, so nothing is ever as it seems. Number 8 on my list is Dial M for Murder from 1954. It's the first of 3 Hitchcock films to star the stunningly beautiful Grace Kelly. It's also one of the better-known single-location films that Hitchcock was so fond of. Co-starring in Dial M is Ray Milland and Robert Cummings. So if you didn't know already, the quick plot involves Milland trying to murder his wife, played by Grace Kelly. When things don't go according to plan, and of course they never do, Milland has a dastardly backup plan. Number 7 on my list is North by Northwest from 1959. Cary Grant stars in his 4th and final film collaboration with Alfred Hitchcock. This is another amazing Hitchcock film, which has tons of suspense, action, and of course, a terrific plot. Cary Grant is amazing as always, this time playing a man who has a case of mistaken identity and is being chased across the United States by some weird international organization trying to smuggle secrets back to their country. Eva Marie Saint continues the tradition of attractive blondes cast by Hitchcock, and James Mason is also excellent as the co-starring role as the quote-unquote real spy. Of course, everyone remembers the Mount Rushmore scene, and of course for good reason. The shots are amazing, and then the climax of the movie is incredibly tense and exciting. Nobody was better than Hitchcock at keeping you on the edge of your seat. Number 6 on my list, To Catch a Thief from 1955. This was the third and final Hitchcock movie that starred Grace Kelly. It seemed like she was in a ton of movies in general, and a lot of Hitchcock films, but it was only 3 Hitchcock films. The chemistry between Cary Grant and Grace Kelly is amazing, and this is one of Hitchcock's best films, or at least best-known films. Cary Grant plays a retired cat burglar, or so we think, who comes out of retirement to catch another cat burglar who is wreaking havoc on tourists in the French Riviera. During his investigation, he meets the beautiful Grace Kelly and, of course, begins a relationship with her. The rest of the movie is kind of a cat-and-mouse game between Grant, Kelly, and the police, and possibly the quote-unquote real burglar. That's the thing about Hitchcock movies. They're never what they seem. Number 5 on my list, Strangers on a Train from 1951. This is one of Hitchcock's best films that a lot of people have either never seen or simply never heard of. The film stars Farrelly Granger, Robert Walker, and Ruth Roman, and it's about 2 men who have a chance meeting on a train, as the title suggests. One is an up-and-coming tennis player, that's Granger, while the other is a socialite with psychopathic tendencies, that being Robert Walker. The two have a theoretical discussion about committing murder and how they each should kill the other person's target in order they would never be caught because they never met each other before this. You can kind of see where this one is headed. And if you haven't, then you got to do yourself a favor and see this movie. Number 4 on my list, The Birds from 1963. This is where it starts to get a little difficult for me because all of the movies going forward on my list are kind of interchangeable. They can go either way, and The Birds could very easily be my number 1 film, but for statistical purposes, we're going to make The Birds number 4. I believe this was the second Alfred Hitchcock movie I saw that my dad actually recommended. Personally, I always liked how the movie was filmed in the San Francisco Bay Area, in Bodega Bay, because this is where I grew up, and this is where I still live. And much like the first film that I saw for Alfred Hitchcock, my dad told me next to nothing about this film, except that somebody gets their eyes poked out by some birds. Thanks a lot, Dad. I heard a great story about Hitchcock's plan about a potential ending for the film. So if you've seen this Birds, so if you haven't seen The Birds, there's going to be some spoilers, but you know how the movie ends, and it ends ominously, with tons of birds kind of just resting calmly as Rod Taylor and Tippi Hedren slowly drive away from their Bodega Bay house. Now, this house had been just ravaged by the birds, so they're calm at this point. So one of Hitchcock's ending ideas, and their storyboards to validate this, was to have Taylor and Hedren drive off thinking that everything was okay because the birds kind of flown away and they're calm now. But as Taylor and Hedren continue to drive, the Golden Gate Bridge comes into view, and as they get closer, their eyes fill with horror as the bridge is completely covered with birds that are just waiting for them. Now, to me, that would have been an amazing ending, but I don't think they could afford it, and that's why you get the ending that eventually came out. Number 3 on my list is Notorious from 1946. Now again, I've stated, it's really difficult to pick a favorite Hitchcock movie for me, but again, Notorious was pretty easy to put in my top 5. I've already stated my fondness of Cary Grant, but then now in Notorious, you have the incredibly talented and beautiful Ingrid Bergman, along with the very much underrated Claude Rains. To me, Claude Rains kind of is the glue that puts everything together in this film. He is so good in it. Hitchcock movies kind of always take you on an unexpected journey, and I think that's why his movies still resonate with movie fans, and that they're still fresh and unique, and were way ahead of their time. Now again, this film may be a little dated to some because it is post-World War II, But it's the plot, and the plot always resonates with people, and it always holds up. Notorious really keeps the suspense going throughout the film, and again, Claude Rains is terrific as the villain. So even though I own this film on DVD and see it many times, I often attend screenings of the film at the famous Stanford Theater in Palo Alto, California. And they often have Hitchcock festivals, and I make sure that I see this one. So if you've never been there, and you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, definitely check out the Stanford Theater. If you're an old movie buff, you'll just have a wonderful time. Number 2 is Rear Window from 1954. Nobody was better than Alfred Hitchcock at keeping the suspense and interest in a movie while having the entire movie shot in only one place. Rope and Lifeboat come to mind, but nothing is better than Rear Window at doing this. This film features James Stewart and Grace Kelly, and again, I don't care what era, Grace Kelly was the most beautiful woman ever. To think how legendary of an actress she was, and that she retired from acting at the age of 26. I mean, she's basically like the Beatles of acting. She only appeared in 11 movies total, and almost all of them are classics. Again, she starred in 3 Alfred Hitchcock movies, and all 3 of them are on my list. The best thing about Rear Window is the tension and suspense. It's just tremendous. You know, the scene where Grace Kelly is in Raymond Burr's apartment while James Stewart watches in agony because he has a broken leg, and she has no idea what is unfolding, is really the suspense at its finest. That's the greatest quality of Hitchcock movies. The scariest thing isn't what you see, it's what your mind is thinking it's going to see. Hitchcock proved that time and time again. Okay, you made it all the way to the end of my list, so I won't keep you in suspense any longer, but I'm sure you can guess what it is. Number 1 on my list of my personal favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies is Psycho from 1960. So this was the very first Alfred Hitchcock movie I saw. So basically I remember my dad telling me a story about when he saw Psycho in a theater when it first came out when he was a kid. At first he just said if I wanted to see a great classic suspenseful thriller, I needed to see the original Psycho. Now, he didn't give me any specifics about the movie, just that the kid next to him jumped out of his seat. So immediately I wanted to see Psycho. Eventually, after I saw the film, he gave me the details of what happened of his particular experience. According to my dad, who was about 12 or 13 at the time, he said that the kid next to him nearly jumped out of his seat during the shower scene, and then the scene where Mrs. Bates comes racing with a knife at the detective who was walking up the stairs in the Bates motel. Now, in the DVD commentary, it was said that Alfred Hitchcock specifically requested theater owners that once the film started, that no additional patron be allowed into the theater. Now, this was just a brilliant promotional tool, along with the fact that Hitchcock didn't want anyone to miss out on any parts of the movie. The other really star of the film is the amazingly simple score, which really sets the tone and sets Psycho apart from most suspense movies. The screeching violin sound adds so much tension, and then the suspense, the viewer's actually tricked into believing they're seeing much more than they really are. That's where Hitchcock was his best. Anyway, you will enjoy the rest of the interviews I have, but that is my top 10 list. If you haven't seen all of these Hitchcock movies, I highly recommend you do, and I'll be back later to discuss more. Okay, we're back with Sarah, and we're going to talk about our favorite Hitchcock movies. So, what are your favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies?
Oh, just the black and white ones. Yeah, the rest of them.
Oh, we're going to get pretentious on
this
one?
No.
Okay.
You explained to me there was one that the birds was in color, and I don't know why. I remember that now. I just read about how Alfred Hitchcock did not like LA at all, and he only filmed like one scene or one down there. I think it was at a warehouse or a studio because he disliked it so much. And I did not know that he lived in Scotts Valley. Yeah, where my dad's hood is. And so everything was filmed, which I love movies that are filmed like in San Francisco or stuff that I know. Right? You're like,
well, did you ever see?
Play Misty for Me?
No. Well, yeah. We could talk about. Yes, we could definitely talk about it.
Clint Eastwood does a lot of it.
It was Santa Rosa. It was Shadow of a Doubt. and so
There's a list of all of them. Like he did like all these areas up here. I was like, yes, that's awesome.
Well, he hated to do on location things. He just liked sets like Rear Window.
Oh, he did. He just he's an interesting little butterball kind of guy. He was like obsessed with one of his what's her name? Was it Tippi? Her name?
Tippi Hedren.
Yeah.
Whose mom?
It is. We just talked about whose mom is that? Well, how did I know that? Is it Keira Sedgwick?
No.
Dang it. Who is it? Did I tell you this? Was I the one who let you in on this?
No, she's married to Antonio Banderas.
Oh, yeah. Melanie Griffith.
Yes.
Okay, I was getting her confused with the other girl that messed up her face. Yeah. The one from Sleepless in Seattle, Meg Ryan.
Yes, she did.
I get her a little confused. They mess up their face. She's kind of like that. She looks a little jokerish. But my first Hitchcock movie was Psycho.
Okay.
Which it should be everyone's. Let's just be honest. And that I watched they had a really hard time getting that movie released because it was very like risque for its time. Like the whole shower scene, even though you see her from barely, like you don't even know if you see her shoulders.
No.
Because the idea that somebody was going to people are still filming in two different beds. Like they'll have married couples and sleeping.
That's true in the beginning.
They never did. You know that never happened? They just did that for film, and I always assumed that it was like that in homes across America.
Right.
It wasn't. Yeah. Nobody slept in separate beds.
It was
except
like
for Lucy.
I Love Lucy.
Yeah. All of that. It was like they never slept in separate beds.
Yeah.
They just did that for TV because it was too awkward. It's like, how about just don't film a scene in the bedroom?
Yeah.
How about that? But anyway, so and just the stabbing scene. So I know this, but they took the sound was a melon, and they stabbed the melon. That was stabbing, and I remember watching that and being like, oh god, even to this day, hearing that kind of sound, that gash, and they used the Hershey syrup in the shower scene, because it has consistency, which I thought was great.
But the great part about that song, like the violins, it's so simple,
right?
But it's so freaky.
Again, so is Michael Myers.
Yeah,
it's like who's do. It's like I can play. That's the one thing I can play on the piano. It says
a lot about you,
right? They come and Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
there's nothing to it.
There's nothing to it,
and yet it freaks us all out.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I mean, that's another show, like the weird 3-note soundtracks that like scared the shit out of us.
Maybe because there's silence, it's not filling up.
Right, and you're just waiting for something to spring out at you or do whatever. But and as far as a villain, it was like somebody said, Anthony Perkins, it was the worst villain, and I'm like, I just felt bad for him.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I actually am like, from a psychological standpoint, his like mom jacked him.
Now, did you feel bad for him in the middle of the movie, or did you finally when it all comes out?
I think more. I don't know. From the beginning, I kind of was like, "Oh, he's kind of lacking self-esteem. He just seems a little uncomfortable. He's like that drama geek, and he's got no friends." And then I think throughout the whole movie, and then you kind of figure out what's going on, and then when you realize his mom, he's talking, you're like, "Oh, yeah, that's gonna leave a mark."
Yeah,
it smells him up a little bit, but then there was the scene where she's, he's got the fly in his hand. He's like, "You're not even gonna swat that fly." It's like, poor guy, he's just a mess.
Yes.
And then I watched, it was the 80s, was a sequel one, and I still felt bad for him.
You did actually watch
it. Poor guy.
Sequel, which Hitchcock was not involved with.
I know, right, sorry. So, but I just think Anthony Perkins, I liked him. Did he do anything else?
He did, no, he was on a lot of stuff. He was in a baseball movie called Fear Strikes Out, which is a true story about Jimmy Pearsall. He was schizophrenic. And so,
my kind of movie. When did this come out? I got to write this down.
Like in the 50s, I want to say. But the thing was, he, as a baseball fan, he's a horrible baseball player. He couldn't even throw the ball or anything like that.
Oh, he was a fan.
Yes.
Okay.
No. He's playing a ball player in.
I get you.
But Anthony Perkins cannot play baseball, and so the acting was good, but the baseball scenes are terrible.
You're fully aware that it's not his thing.
Exactly, but it is but it's a true story, so you might want to see.
I'm gonna have to write that down.
Fear Strikes Out.
That's a good one.
So other Hitchcock movies.
The Birds, which I just last night saw, that actually happened in Capitola. It's like some weird bird epidemic. But what exactly I didn't finish watching. I'm going to have to look that up. But did they get sick? Or I don't know what the cause of it.
If I remember correctly, they all kind of
died.
Well, yeah, and I think they might have attacked too.
Right, they're slamming into windows and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it was isolated. So,
but I was no, I started to hear that, and I'm like, oh, I guess I should have paid attention. But yeah, so then Hitchcock, living in Scotts Valley, must decided that. But that one was Like, you think, oh, birds are harmless. I got attacked by a bird.
When?
Just recently, my friend had this bird, and it was like a cockatoo. It's like this big, not even like maybe 8 inches, not 6 inches. Standard freaking blush-wearing cockatoo. Isn't that a cockatoo?
Yeah.
Cockatoo.
Yeah.
And I walk in, it's on its perch, and I just kind of walk over. It grabs a hold of my, like, grins, and then starts pecking at me. And I'm like, I'm all, oh my God, I've never been like, that hurt. Their little beaks. So I could see why that would be a problem if you were being attacked by tons of birds. Were they possessed in the movie? I don't even remember.
They never really explain why.
No. And they're circling, but it's like, yeah, I just remember the scene where she's like bleeding and they're...
Yeah.
And were any birds harmed in the filming of that movie?
I don't think so. But the... I won't give it away. So.
Oh, yeah, because in case I don't remember it all.
Yeah.
No, the other great scene out of the Psycho... Was it when they pull up the car?
Yes.
Out of the... that's always got to be
from the
great.
river, yeah.
And... Yeah, and she's in the trunk, isn't she?
She is in the trunk.
That's the first one.
Yes.
Yeah, speaking...
You're the only one that's going to say it's the first one, because almost nobody's ever seen the 2
right,
and 3
and it's
yet.
not Hitchcock, so it's like, you can't even say. But it was technically the movie, but yeah, it wasn't Hitchcock.
Yes.
Was he even alive then?
No, I think he was dead in the late 70s.
When did he die?
I want to say he was in the late 1970s, probably in his 70s or 80s.
Of what?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look that
I'll
up. Write that down.
Yeah, okay, I will. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so we're here with super producer Lindley, who will host the show if I'm ever sick, according to my father. So.
Oh, thank you,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Davis.
Yeah. I'll
Tell him I said thank you.
He'll have to listen now. Okay, so we're gonna do Alfred Hitchcock movies this week, which is a great subject, and he had so many ranges of movies.
Yeah.
But most people, I think, at least our generation, probably knows his later films better, or at least the mid to
Oh,
later.
really?
I would say, yeah. So Psycho and things like that, I think.
Yeah. Oh, later.
Yeah,
that
so
is
not his
later,
early
of
British
course. Sorry,
films.
not
Yeah.
his early ones. Yeah, of course.
So for you, what are the films that stuck out for you, and what was the first one you saw?
I mean, I feel like it must have been Psycho, but that sounds crazy that there was even a period in the 80s where my friend and I would rent older movies. Like, we just both liked older movies, but we rented Psycho. I think we even had a crush on Norman Bates for a while. Like, why? I don't know. It was like Richard, another gay actor.
Yeah, I know. That's right. We were just talking about this. Yeah.
He wasn't really a leading man, but...
No, he kind of was. Yeah.
Was he?
Anthony Perkins.
Anthony Perkins? I don't know
Yeah.
if he was a leading man, but
Yeah.
that's funny. I even remember watching Psycho 2, which was not
Yeah,
the
there was
remake.
two.
I think it came out in the 80s, and
It
that
did.
maybe prompted us to watch, I don't know.
The original.
Yeah.
So you saw Psycho 2 and possibly Psycho 3 before the original Psycho?
I don't know if no,
Okay.
definitely not. I don't know that I never saw Psycho 3.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a
There
Psycho
is,
3.
yeah.
Oh, no, that's terrible.
And did you see the remake with, wasn't Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I watched that.
Yeah.
It was...
Why would you redo a classic?
But they also they redid it and did it shot for shot. Like, they redid it exactly as the original. So it was fine acting. It was okay, but nothing compared to the first one.
So seeing Psycho, did it totally? Cause I know you're kind of a scaredy cat, but things. So did the shower scene and the stairs and all that? Did that?
I remember having to drive. I think I was at my friend's house, and we were like 17 or so. It was probably on a Friday night because, I remember back to the date stories. I didn't date, so
the video store.
I was hanging out with my friend, crushing on Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. How sick is that? I remember being really scared to drive back to my house, which was like, a 2-minute drive from my friend's house, but still, it scared me.
Yeah.
That was the wild high school party person I was. That we stayed home. So top 10. I don't know. I love The Trouble with Harry.
That's one that a lot of people don't mention.
Yeah, but I love that one. It's so cute and funny. I guess it's dark because there is a dead body involved, but
there's
it's
always
comedic.
There's always comedic elements in all of Hitchcock's movies. But that was probably the more... That one and Mr. and Mrs. Smith from 1941 are his two kind of
I don't
most...
know that. I didn't watch that one.
Yeah, that's one of the early ones.
Yeah, but do you remember because you grew up in the Bay Area, so Channel 44, Channel 2 would always show Vertigo, The Man Who Knew Too Much. So I watched all those very early and with the commercial breaks. I think it was those two in particular. Which is the one with Doris Day?
That's The Man Who Knew Too Much.
The Man Who Knew Too Much. Okay,
which is also a remake. So the original was with Peter Lorre.
I didn't know that was of one of his British films.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm surprised Doris Day wasn't in more of his movies since he loved blondes so much.
He loved blondes. Yeah, but she wasn't I wouldn't call her like a classic Hitchcock blonde, though, right?
No, it was more like Tippi Hedren and Janet Leigh.
Janet Leigh is who I'm thinking of. Or no, what was someone who's in Vertigo?
Oh, Grace Well, no, that's
not...
Kim Novak?
Kim Novak, yeah, thank you. I was thinking Kim Basinger, and I was like, no, definitely not Kim Basinger.
Well, obviously, Grace Kelly was...
Yeah,
and was it Eva Marie Saint? She was the one in North by Northwest.
She's in North by Northwest, yeah, exactly. And that's another one of my favorites is North by Northwest, and I think that was also... I mean, I just remember The Man Who Knew Too Much and Vertigo playing... It almost seemed like every month they would have... maybe they would do a Hitchcock, I don't even know, marathon, but I would always watch those. Yeah.
Well, the fun part about the Trouble with Harry is you get to see Jerry Mathers, who was better known as the Beaver.
Yeah, but he's really young. I think it's pre-Beaver.
Pre-Beaver, yeah.
Yeah, it's pre him starting to think he was a very cute kid.
That's another good topic we do, child actors that really never had a career after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, who didn't have a career after?
Yeah.
Jerry Mathers, well, I mean, Leap to Beaver was big.
It was, but what did he do as an adult?
Well, then he came back as an adult, remember?
Well, then Wally ended up becoming it was... Who was the kiss-ass neighbor?
Eddie Haskell.
Eddie Haskell. He ended up becoming a real police officer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. That actor.
Yes.
I still refer to kids as Eddie Haskell. It's such an Eddie Haskell.
I know
how to work the adults and the parents.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, back to Hitchcock.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. I love The Birds. I love Hitchcock also because we grew up here where he films. You know, because it's in San Francisco in the Bay Area, Napa. So I love watching. Just the seaside, like where he films, is really great.
Well, Bodega Bay was where The Birds was.
Yeah, but it was also based on a story that happened in Capitola, Santa Cruz, Capitola. A bunch of seagulls dropped from the sky.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you never saw Shadow of a Doubt.
I have not seen that yet. Yeah, I've got to
put
that
that
on the list.
Just because it was filmed in Santa Rosa.
It's in Santa Rosa, right? Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's one of those psychological... creepy
thrillers, right? It sounds creepy.
It is, but it's really good. Teresa Wright and Joseph Cotton.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I need to put that on the list. I have a lot I need to put on the list, and then I get a lot mixed up that I have watched, but I can't. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if I can distinguish Rope from. I don't know.
Rope is just
one of the early more noir movies that he did.
Rope's one of the movies where he's in one room the whole time.
Okay, so that's not the movie I'm thinking of. What's the movie where they're in like a castle? It seems.
Oh, Rebecca.
Rebecca. Yeah.
That one's really good. It's a little bit long. And it's I think it's his first American film.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's Rebecca.
Yeah, with Joan Fontaine. So you should definitely check out
the British films.
Those are really good. I mean, the actors aren't as well known, but it's definitely worth checking out. I think it's
really always almost about to buy the Hitchcock bundle on iTunes. I think you can buy almost everything. Yeah. As like. For $200 or something.
It'd be worth it. Just
exactly.
Because pretty much all of his stuff is really, really good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yes. Yep. All right. Thanks, Lynn.
That was it. Sorry.
That's it. Sorry.
Boring.
Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a roundtable this time with David and Samantha.
Hello.
The dynamic duo. So we're going to go over Hitchcock films. Samantha's a huge Hitchcock fan. She'll go into more details about her love of Hitchcock and her history.
We shall see.
But first we'll start with David. So give me your top 3 favorite Hitchcock movies, unless you have a ton more. So
top of the list, just for the sake of not being like Psycho and The Birds and all that, I'll just say Rebecca.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because I think it was like his first American movie, so he was still like kind of getting the hang of everything, and it was really creepy, and it kind of like set up a lot of what you were going to see down the line of like the kind of his cinematography and like his kind of look and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just remember the first time I saw it, and it was just like really creepy, and it's so effective of getting into her head of like, well, is she going crazy? Like maybe she's not.
Right.
Or, so I always thought that was really cool. But is
that Joan Fontaine's first movie? I'm kind of looking it up right now.
I don't know.
I don't know if it's her first, but she might have won an Academy Award for it.
I think it won.
They won the film one. I think best
film.
It won Best Picture.
Yeah, Best Picture.
She received the first of 3 nominations, but okay. And then she won next year in a Hitchcock movie called Suspicion.
Yeah, that was the second American movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little run for her.
Yeah. But, yeah. And then aside from that, I mean, growing up with cable, you know, the same movies were always on of like Psycho and Rear Window and all those. And I guess out of all of his like really popular, like kind of mainstay ones, I'd say I probably prefer Psycho out of all of them. And I have a soft spot for Vertigo because my friend used to bartend at the bar Vertigo in San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
And so they'd always have DVDs on the background, and one of their go-tos is always Vertigo. So I've seen it a million times, but never with the sound on.
It is one of the stranger, like it's the least straightforward Hitchcock film. There's a lot going on.
The visuals are one of the coolest, though.
Yeah.
So
makes it great for a bar movie.
I know. Well, we went filming in San Francisco, so that's that was always good. So those are your top three.
Oh.
All right. Okay, so now we're gonna get really in depth. I know I'm hyping you up so much here, but so you wrote a thesis in college on Hitchcock. So what happened there?
I did. I studied English in college, but somehow hacked the system in my senior year. Instead of taking an English literature course for my final senior thesis, I took a Hitchcock movie class. So once a week we watched a film and talked about it, and so I wrote a paper at the end. I don't really remember much about it, but
I wish you still had it because we could put that in the show notes.
Oh,
no! That could be a bonus, extra content.
Share my college.
So how long was the actual paper?
I was 20-something pages.
Okay.
Yeah, so I talked about 4 movies, 4 or 5 movies, and it was kind of about I really like symbolism in movies, and I think Hitchcock does a great deal with that. And so I kind of talked about how there's a lot of important objects that show up in his films, and they're often tied really closely to murder, or kind of the women who get murdered, because they're usually ladies who get killed in his films.
I always found it interesting that he'd always put himself in the beginning of the film because he didn't want him to distract from the actual plot. So you always have to find him in the beginning.
Yeah, he always pops up walking down the street or getting off the did he? I'm trying to remember in The Birds. Did he get off a cable car or something?
So. Yeah.
Or he was in a cable car. I remember that one.
He's one of the few directors that could. I mean, he really was as big as the film. I mean, not just width-wise, but his whole persona and everything. So, how many films did you actually watch in that class?
I don't remember. We watched all of the classic ones.
Okay.
And then we watched some of his English films that he filmed in England. And then transitioned over to the American films all the way up to, I think the last one we watched was either Marnie or was it Friends?
Friends, that was the second to last one.
Yeah, so we watched Marnie, which I hadn't even heard of prior to this class, and I really recommend it to people who maybe aren't huge Hitchcock fans or who don't have a lot of Hitchcock background because it's a bit different.
It is. It is really different. And I think it's the only other Tippi Hedren movie besides The Birds, right? With Hitchcock. And Sean Connery's in it, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, and I think... was it really Tippi Hedren?
Was it? I thought it was.
No, I'm looking it up. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess she ended up having major issues with Hitchcock, so I don't know. Obviously, either the payday was good or it hadn't fully developed yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so since I'm going to give you a top 5 since you actually wrote a paper on it.
Oh, God.
So what are your 5 favorite?
Well, I think the major one I kind of wanted to talk about, another one that people aren't super familiar with is Shadow of a Doubt. It came out in 1943, and it was one of his first American films, still filmed in black and white, kind of has that film noir feel. And, it's kind of the premise is... This man is a murderer, and you know it from the beginning. There's not much of a mystery, but everyone he encounters is completely oblivious. And it's based in Santa Rosa, so super close to here. And
here being California, by the way, if you do happen to listen outside of here.
Bay Area. And so this guy shows up to visit his family. His name's Uncle Charlie, and he has this really strange relationship with his niece, who also goes by the name Charlie.
Teresa Wright.
Yeah, and she's great in that film.
Yeah.
And so she starts to get suspicious. So where the idea of shadow of a doubt comes into play, she starts to doubt who he is and kind of starts to figure out that, oh, I think he's a murderer. There's this serial killer on the loose. And so, throughout the film, you kind of see her try to figure things out, and then he starts to realize that, oh, she knows something, so it gets super suspenseful, and you keep wondering, like, is he going to throw her off the stairs, or is he going to kill her in this restaurant, or something, and, I don't want to give away the ending, but it's great, and, I think one of my favorites, and then...
It's one of the common themes is always questioning your sanity. You know, like he seems to do that in a lot of his films. And so.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to, there's another film called Stoker. Have you seen that?
No.
It is based off of this movie, actually.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't want to butcher the director's name. Do you know
the Chan-wook Park?
Yeah.
The same dude that did the Korean Old Boy and like Lady Vengeance and stuff like that.
Or Wikipedia says Park Chan-wook, and then Ridley Scott produced it.
Okay.
And it came out a few years ago, and it's loosely inspired by Shadow of a Doubt. It's the same idea of this weird relationship between an uncle and his teenage niece, and there's kind of these weird like sexual undertones, but then
definitely
also
creepier than a regular Hitchcock.
Yeah, so the Stoker really kind of plays up their odd relationship, and then it's more violent than Hitchcock. So definitely Shadow of a Doubt, one of my tops. In terms
Marnie,
of plot. Marnie's strange. I liked Marnie because it's kind of the female version of Psycho in a way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because it's this woman who's kind of driven crazy, weird relationship with her mom. Yep. I was never actually a big fan of Psycho.
Really?
So,
okay.
I just thought it was kind of silly. But I guess once you get past the shower scene, it's like, okay, when are they going to figure things out here?
It's like two different movies. I mean, really, that's... so you have Marnie,
Shadow of a Doubt. I've always loved Rear Window. Primarily, I think Grace Kelly is just stunning, and her outfits are magical, and she is really awesome, and she kind of acts as sort of like female figure that's really in stark contrast to Jimmy Stewart's character, because he's stuck there in the house, and she ends up like going out and trying to solve things for him.
And it's with the one room type movies that Hitchcock liked to do.
And I really loved kind of how that movie starts, where it's kind of panning and you see all the different places where people are living. And what was that? Rear Window. I've always kind of liked The Birds. I think that was the first Hitchcock movie I ever saw.
Okay, yeah. Most people have said The Birds. Like that's
that was the first one I saw. Yeah. I don't think I like it per se. But I saw it when I was young, and it kind of freaked me out. It was kind of grossed me out. Yeah. But then I didn't like it as much.
Well, a couple of people said they were actually attacked by birds, so they kind of it hit home. So, what did you think of his early British films, like Sabotage, and there was another one, like The Lady Vanishes, stuff like that.
Yeah, I really like 30s, really really old movies.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed those. I have horrible recall of details, so I cannot tell you.
You know, this is damn good movie memories, but that's okay. All right.
Yeah, it's cool to see. I think he's a really fun director because he created so much over kind of a variety, and you can really see the evolution of his work.
Started in the 20s and then all the way to the mid-70s. Yeah. I mean, that's nowadays that would be insane to have a career like that. So, thank you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're here with Frank, who's been gracious enough to be on the podcast again. How you doing?
Good, Brian. Always a pleasure to be here.
All right, so this time we're going to go into Alfred Hitchcock movies and what are your favorites, what are your memories, any knowledge you have of that would entertain the crowd. That's why I have you on the podcast.
Well, I think you're just here to grab more airtime. I don't know about my knowledge, but I would say my top 3 would be, without a doubt, To Catch a Thief.
Okay.
One of my all-time favorite movies.
Okay, so for Catch a Thief, what about that makes it?
It's in the 50s, and I love the 50s-style movies there. The big cars, the scenes of Monaco and the south of France. Mm-hmm. Grace Kelly is a screen beauty, still rates highly compared to even current day actors. And then it's filmed in VistaVision, which made it kind of funky, big screen kind of thing when it looks good on your DVR or when you're streaming it.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you been to France?
I have. I've been to Monte Carlo, and I've been in the south of France. I've been on the road that Grace Kelly was driving Cary Grant in the Chase in the convertible, and that's the actual road that Grace Kelly drove down and where she died at when she had her stroke.
That's right.
That was a good trip because I went into the casino where he went. I actually won $300.
Nice.
At the slot machines. They don't let you in the formal area without a tuxedo and more money, I think, in your bank. But they let me play the slots. So.
You just had to be dapper like Cary Grant.
Yes. And I'm a food and wine guy, so just the scene at the restaurant, and the kitchen itself with all the glass looking in from the office into the kitchen. So liked all that.
Yeah. So what's your number 2?
Number 2 would be North by Northwest.
Another Cary Grant, yeah.
Another Cary Grant. It is a suspense thriller to the max for me. And again, it's kind of that 50s mode and low tech and just the thrill of it all. And then the third one would be another Grace Kelly. So Cary Grant, Grace Kelly themes here for $500, Alex. Rear Window, just a beautiful film in terms of how it's filmed, the suspense and the concept itself and the idea.
And the great part is it's one of those Hitchcock films where it's basically in one area the whole movie, but you don't even realize it because it's that good of a story.
Right.
And also underrated is Raymond Burr as the villain in that. You don't really see him that much up close, but it's pretty awesome.
Dial M for Murder is another Hitchcock.
That's another.
I would put that one clean up then.
And that's another Grace Kelly. So, and it's another one that pretty much takes place in one room.
Right.
So you have that one. Speaking of one room or one shot or movies, so you have that one. You have Rope, which is James Stewart, and Lifeboat, which not a lot of people talk about. Lifeboat's an interesting one.
Yeah, and I'm not a big James Stewart fan.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. See, I love James Stewart.
Is that because of the Christmas movie?
No, It's a Wonderful Life is obviously a classic, but no, he seems like the everyday man. It's the Mr. Deeds, not Mr. Deeds, but Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Yeah, I just always liked him. But my all-time favorite actor is Cary Grant because Cary Grant could play any character. It could be serious. He could be funny. He could be charming. He could be. He
could have played James Bond.
He very easily could. I think they wanted him to. But I don't know if he was too old.
Pretty good from a guy from Iowa.
Not bad.
That accent.
That's right.
The Catch a Thief, though. I mean, some of his shirts he wears and stuff like that plays funky in the VistaVision, the film, and the scene in the flower market where he had the striped shirt on with the flowers.
Yeah.
And I also like that Hitchcock is in all his movies. I would probably do that too if I was the director.
He's one of those directors that he's almost bigger than the film, and there are many directors.
He's a big guy too, so his films have to be big.
That's true. But no, he's one of those iconic people that is just bigger than the movies themselves. So, yes. Thank you so much, Frank.
Thank you, Brian. Pleasure.
Okay, so we have the dynamic duo of the two Brians. So my other brother Brian is here, and so we're going to get into his favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies. So have at it.
Good evening.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was very good. Did you watch his TV show?
I think I saw it a little bit as a kid. Yeah, it's hard to remember it. I remember him popping up.
Yeah.
And the theme music and he walks into the silhouette.
Yeah. Well, really kept him in the limelight, you know.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't see his films, he was going to be in your house. So that was kind of cool. So go ahead.
All right. So I couldn't really decide on my favorite Hitchcock film because I like so many of them. But I did come up with a list of about 5.
Okay.
And this is in no particular order. So one is Vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where to start in this one. This one's just good all the way through.
Being a Bay Area native helps.
I think I like the San Francisco aspect of it. It goes to San Juan Bautista too, and the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the mystery surrounding the female lead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing a blank on her name. Carlotta.
Kim Novak.
Yeah, no, I knew Kim Novak, but
I
meant the character's name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Carlotta / what's her name? I don't know.
Yeah, that's as you find out.
I should have done more research.
Vertigo is one of those weird ones where it's not as straightforward as some of his other films.
Yeah, definitely. Rear Window.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I was just listening to another movie podcast, which I won't.
That's okay.
But they did a show on Rear Window. It's applicable today of how we use the internet, where we're just kind of disengaged with the world, and it's kind of the same as what Jeff does. The Jimmy Stewart character is like Jeff in the movie, and he becomes kind of disengaged with his real life and is obsessed with staring out the window at his neighbors in the apartment complex, and it's sort of it's a little of a parallel to what we do today on the internet or even TV.
Right.
We're just kind of like, all right, I'm going to tune out like what's at home or what's in the world around me, and I'm just going to look at get all my information or my perception through this screen.
And even though you're out and about, you're still looking at your phone the whole time, like you can't put it down. Yeah, so that's interesting.
So it's good, and I love Grace Kelly too, and Jimmy Stewart. They're both great in that movie.
Yeah.
And Raymond Burr.
Yeah, people forget.
Playing a villain rather than the heroic.
Well, it's always from afar.
Yeah.
And you never actually hear his voice, I don't think.
Yeah, I think maybe towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see he talks, but yeah. North by Northwest.
Yep.
Cary Grant is one of my favorite actors of all time. So
me too.
Love that movie. It's probably like the epitome of Hitchcock's Wrong Man movies. So I mean that's definitely a recurrent theme in a lot of his movies.
Well, he made a movie called The Wrong Man,
which I haven't seen actually.
Supposedly it's a true story. So it's with Henry Fonda.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of his I think late 40s one. So it's kind of got that very noir vibe to it.
Yeah. So I love that it ends up on Mount Rushmore at the end, too, because it's like the cheesiest place possible, but it becomes sort of suspenseful. And it's a little bit like a James Bond movie because you have like this villain who's hiding out like on this national monument, and it just I don't know.
James Mason's great in that movie.
He's great too. Yeah. And then The Birds, just for its sheer creepiness. I mean, there's really like no explanation for what's going on, and I think they maybe theorized in the movie, but it's like. There's nothing really to explain what's going on with it's just this horror.
Right. Like, why did the birds
why are they
turn
attacking?
This way? Yeah.
And what are they doing? And how do you escape it? And I think the ending where they're driving across the bridge and the birds are sitting up there.
Well, that's what they wanted to do.
Oh, they wanted to,
I was
thinking maybe I saw some mock-up of what. Yeah, it must have been an image I've seen on the DVD or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would have been the perfect ending. I don't think they had the money to actually do it. So, but yeah, it was kind of a weird, ominous feeling, where it's just they're all quiet for now, but you don't.
Yeah, I mean, most of the movie is very ominous, and then there's the parts where the birds are actually attacking, which is just kind of sheerly horrifying. If you think about it. I still to this day, like if I go outside and see a whole bunch of like seagulls or crows all gathered together, I'm like. I'll just step a little bit carefully and hope they won't notice me too much.
It was funny because I mentioned it earlier in my intro, which you'll eventually hear. My dad told me next to nothing about the movie except somebody gets their eyes poked out, and so I was like, okay, I'm in. I'll see
in
it.
a bad way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what's your last one?
My last one is Notorious, which is
yeah.
maybe, I don't know, this is a lesser known one of his, although still pretty famous. But
yeah.
It's another Cary Grant, and this time it has Ingrid Bergman, who's another of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
I don't know, this one's just kind of a good suspense movie, and it's a good kind of spy, secret agent thing. Double agent.
Yeah, very post-World War II.
Yeah, and Claude Rains is a great villain.
He's excellent, yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I really like in this one is Hitchcock's cameo.
Mm-hmm.
they're at a party and they have to get inside of the wine cellar to find something, and they know that Claude Rains will go down and get more champagne as it's being used up. So you see Hitchcock come on the screen, grab a glass of champagne, chug it, and leave.
Yeah,
and it's like you're adding to the suspense. He's like adding to the suspense and putting his characters in further peril.
And usually he would always be in the beginning because he didn't want to take away from the plot. But
that's he actually added to the plot in that one, which I thought was really cool.
That's cool. That's great. All right. So thank you, Brian.
Cool. My pleasure.
All right, we're here with Dane, who was on the first podcast about it was Inner Space, I believe.
Yeah.
So that was good. And so now we're going to talk about Hitchcock, but we're going to talk about not necessarily his movies. And so Dane has an interesting perspective about Hitchcock. So go ahead.
Yeah, although I have seen some of the movies, what left an impression on me was an episode of the Hitchcock series from the 50s that just preceded The Twilight Zone. Sort of paved the way in a way, although he's pure suspense, and that's more sci-fi fantasy. But, but the episode I'm thinking of is called Man on a Ledge. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to avoid spoilers.
At this point, if you haven't seen it yet, too bad.
But it was interesting because it's about a guy who he goes up, the top of a skyscraper in New York City, I think, and he's threatening to jump off the ledge. And the police show up and they send a cop up to try and talk him down. Mm-hmm. And as he's powwowing with this guy and asking him about his life, why are you up here? And he said my wife left me. He's like, hey man, that happens to a lot of people. It's not worth it, And but as they start chatting and getting deeper into the details, it turns out that his wife left because she was cheating on him with the cop. Who's trying to talk him down. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty good.
That's a great
twist
one.
Of events.
Yeah.
And they actually they remade that episode when they brought back the Hitchcock series in the 80s. Okay. That reboot. Mm-hmm. And Mark Hamill from Star Wars played the guy who was on the ledge.
Oh, okay.
And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it was called Man on the Edge.
Okay.
Yeah. They're being somewhat creative with the title there. And then that should be distinguished from the movie Man on a Ledge, which was a few years ago, which wasn't so great, if I recall. But
I think a lot of people forget about his TV show, and it was really influential. I mean, it kept him in the homes, and if you didn't see his films, you always saw
this was the 50s, which to me is ancient history, but his career was already well underway.
Easily.
He was over it, basically. He was at the tail end of it by then. So the 60s, I think Psycho came out in the early 60s.
Came out in 60, and then The Birds came out in 63.
So he was in the twilight of his career when he was doing a lot of things that he's most famous for now.
Yeah, which is crazy, and I guess that happens a lot. He's one of those directors, he really started in the 20s, and then pretty much had a nice career the whole way through. But.
What I noticed about the series, which is on Netflix, by the way, you can watch it to your heart's content.
Yeah,
there's like 30 or 40 episodes in a season, and they're like 20 to 25 minutes today. Mm-hmm. But they were really productive back then.
Yeah,
so there's like 8 seasons of it, but really effectively from today's standpoint, like 16 seasons.
Yeah. So I haven't seen that many episodes. Does he show up in the film, like in the actual episodes, or is it only the intro?
No, not most of them, just the intro.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he shows up at the end too.
Yeah.
To sort of. I don't want to compare it to Tales from the Crypt from HBO, but I can't. I can't believe they weren't influenced by Hitchcock.
It's true.
And I think he liked puns too, but also very almost ridiculously dry.
So was Hitchcock? So Hitchcock was before The Twilight Zone, at least this show. Okay, so
I think I think it debuted in '55.
Okay,
they overlapped a little bit.
Yeah, because there's a lot of similarities. That's
It's really Twilight Zone is more outlandish, frankly, more entertaining, I guess, because they did a lot of there's like creature effects and things like that, and they had episodes about things that were trendy then, like astronauts and things like that, and Hitchcock didn't really do a lot of that. It's like they'd have episodes about paralegals in some small English town or something, and so I do like Twilight Zone more, I admit, but but I did acknowledge that sort of paved the way for it.
Yeah, we could probably do an episode just on The Twilight Zone, like our favorite episodes for that.
Which and they both had 80s reboots.
Yeah,
And the third time Twilight Zone did a reboot, they really overextended themselves.
Yeah.
It was not great.
Yeah. I think there's even a podcast, like a Twilight Zone, like radio type podcast, but I don't know if it's still
sure there is.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. So movie speaking, so you haven't really got into the Hitchcock films, but the ones that you have seen.
Yeah, I don't recall finishing them. They were very intriguing. You read the description, and so I was excited to watch it, like The Lady Vanishes.
Sure.
Or the Lifeboat one.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think it's just called Lifeboat.
It is, yeah.
But I don't remember how they finished or how they ended. I don't. I don't recall anything from them. But
okay.
I know that they had very promising setups.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to say that they didn't fulfill it, but I don't know. I think it's just kind of a generational thing. It's not that. Yeah. Just the interpersonal drama, just the real basic stuff is not that compelling to me.
Okay.
And probably a lot of people who are used to, even something as basic as it's not in color.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't help.
We should definitely, if you haven't seen Rear Window, that might be interesting for you. But
is that the one? What's the one that takes place in where it has a famous scene in San Francisco? Right?
That might be Vertigo. I think it's Vertigo. Yeah, Vertigo's weird. Vertigo's not as straightforward as some of the other ones. There's a lot going on there. Obviously, the birds. If you
North by Northwest, I do recall that.
Yeah, that's a good one. To Catch a Thief, another Cary Grant movie. And then really one towards the end of his career that I think is really underrated is Frenzy. And so that came in 1972. So it's just your traditional psycho killer on the loose in England. So that might be one.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhat tangential, but I know that like a lot of the kind of classic age of horror movies of Vincent Price and all that, it was going out of fashion by the 70s. And so those guys started popping up and I guess sort of, I don't know, selling out in some ways to be like they just be like kind of the introduction of an anthology or something that was just kind of thrown together. But by the early 70s, I figured that people like Hitchcock, his style was kind of going out. But then again, I mean, Psycho was hugely influential, and that came toward the what most 60s. People would say is at the peak of your career, or anyone's career. If they were going to have one, it would have happened. I mean, at 40 is probably the peak. I think.
And as we were talking about before the interview, so Psycho 2 and Psycho 3 came out in the 80s, which I have no idea why.
Psycho 2 was like 1916, and the sequel was in the 80s.
Wow,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, sadly, I probably have more. I don't think I was gonna say. I think I have more images of like the '80s Psycho movies in my head, but that one was so influential, the original, that I actually don't think that's true.
Yeah.
But there are other sequels that have sort of overshadowed the originals. Yeah, that's not one of them.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, thank you, Dan.
All right, cool.
Okay, so we're going to do another fabulous roundtable with Chris, who was on the podcast last episode on the famous movie Villains, who did a wonderful singing number that many people have been raving about. So Many people, yes. And then we have a newcomer. We have Cynthia. So welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you.
All right. So for this episode, we're going to go into our favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies. And so why don't we start with Cynthia? So what is your favorite, or what is the first Alfred Hitchcock movie you saw?
Oh, the first one was probably Psycho.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about Psycho stuck with you, if anything?
Oh, the famous shower scene.
The shower scene.
Yeah.
So did that freak you out in the sense that you kind of leery getting into the shower going forward, or was it like, it's a movie, whatever, I'm going to forget it?
Yeah, it's a movie, you forget. But I thought it was interesting. I read something I remember about, like, there's the heartbeats, and somehow that makes the audience's members' heartbeats too, which I thought was that part was kind of freaky.
Yeah, and it's interesting they did it in black and white because the blood was technically chocolate syrup that went into the tub because whatever the consistency worked better, and so and I think a lot of that could have been made back then. I think if it was in color, it would have been a lot different of a movie. Maybe black and white made it a little less freaky. I don't know. But, okay, so what is your favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie?
Favorite? Well, I remember The Birds.
The Birds.
Part of it.
Okay.
Parts of it.
So what about The Birds stuck out for you the most?
Well, I think it's kind of different in what it uses to horrify people. It was like just something simple like a bunch of birds pecking at you or something like that. Pretty freaky.
So did that scare you off of birds going forward? Or
no.
You're okay with that one?
Yeah, I'm okay with them.
So what if a bird flew into the shower? You'd be okay.
But I did get pecked by a crow once.
No way.
Yeah, I did. I was at the park and I heard a bunch of little birds in the bush and I didn't think much of it. And next thing you know, like the mom came out and I felt something.
Oh, no way.
And I totally went in a panic frenzy, like flapping my arms up in the air. Yeah, that was scary actually.
Birds have that reputation now. Okay, Chris, are you going to sing your intro?
Birds? No, I'm not. I don't know. I probably have not seen any Alfred Hitchcock movie, but I've seen like the making or like a documentary on the birds.
The birds.
So I think HBO did a special series on Alfred Hitchcock and his obsession with the female leads.
With blondes mostly.
Yeah, but this one in particular, what's her name again?
Tippi Hedren.
Yeah.
Who is also the daughter, her daughter is Melanie Griffith.
Right,
That's
right.
One, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. So I remember like this bird scene where they were after her, like pecking her all over, and then were there many or just one?
I think there were many.
Yeah. So I remember that she had to do it over and over, and like Alfred, I think he was super obsessed with her, and he wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
And she had to be scary enough, and she wasn't getting scary enough, and I don't know. It was a very weird movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the making was the documentary was, how do I say it? Disturbing. Like
really?
How a director could be so obsessed with, or a person could be so obsessed with another.
Well, and he was powerful enough in the industry to get away with it too.
Yeah, exactly. So that was also one of the things they highlighted. Yeah.
It's interesting that I'm surprised she agreed to be on another film because she was in another movie called Marnie.
Right.
And this is after the birds, so I wonder why. Obviously, either she wanted the role, or
she had no choice, or I don't know.
Because back then the studios kind of owned you. All right, so we're here with Celine, and we're going to go over her favorite Hitchcock movies. So, go ahead.
All right. Well, I like Hitchcock movies. They're definitely something that I can watch a Hitchcock movie over and over again. And I like some of the better known. I think most people know his stuff like from the 50s and 60s, the American stuff.
Yeah.
And I do like some of that stuff. I really like Rear Window. That's one I haven't seen in a long time. So now I have a plan to watch it again soon somehow.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And then, and Vertigo. I really like Vertigo. But I was thinking about Hitchcock movies recently because we were talking about it before. And I had forgotten that there's one from the 30s, from his British period, before he came to the States, called The 39 Steps, which I've seen a couple times, which is really cool. And I think that is maybe my favorite or up there.
It's definitely, and that's one of his better known British films. That actually might be one of his most famous. So what about 39 Steps?
I just loved, there was always that sense of like, well, I mean, you always have this in the Hitchcock movie of the person who is like being unfairly persecuted, but you somehow know in the end that they're gonna, that things will be all right, they'll be vindicated.
Right.
But there's always that, there's always that sense of, suspense and just these two like strangers basically who hook up and end up going on this big adventure. I
think a lot of his British films, like Young and Innocent, Sabotage, Saboteur, they have that kind of like those two strangers meet, but then seem to help each other. I don't know if it's kind of the pre-war.
Maybe,
But no, those are interesting. Yeah.
Now, did he do, what was the one in the 40s? Gaslight. Was that Hitchcock?
It seems like a Hitchcock movie, but it's not.
It's not, okay.
But it's
a really good movie, too.
It's a great movie. It's very much like Notorious.
Yeah,
because of the poisoning and kind of leading her to feel that she's insane, but she really isn't. And Ingrid Bergman's in both.
And Notorious is a Hitchcock.
Notorious is Hitchcock.
Which I've seen both of them. Yeah.
And that's actually one of my favorites. Yeah. Cary Grant is always amazing. So.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, those are interesting. So 39 Steps. What are the other ones?
And then, you reminded me of this. I don't know if I should say that on your podcast.
That's okay.
We do talk about these things outside of your podcast.
See, this is what this causes discussions, which is always good.
Yeah, well, you reminded me of Strangers on a Train, which I haven't seen in well over a decade, but I've seen it a couple times, and that's a really good one. Again, strangers, but this time the stranger is more menacing.
That's right.
They don't. He's not like helping the other guy out.
Well, the plot's kind of ingenious. Right? You have these two people who've never met who want to commit a murder for the other person, so there's no connection.
Right.
It's really a fascinating topic.
It's a good one. That's another one I have to watch again soon.
And the other one, if you want another train type movie, I don't know if you've ever seen the Lady Vanishes.
I don't think I have seen that one.
So it's about a woman who is on a train. She's played by Dame Mae Whitty, and her name's Mrs. Froy. And then magically, Mrs. Froy just kind of disappears. And this woman who made friends with her briefly keeps looking for Mrs. Froy. And so it's kind of that standard questioning her sanity type thing, because nobody has heard about Mrs. Froy. Nobody's seen her, but this woman knows that Mrs. Froy is on the train, so the whole movie's trying to figure out.
I should see that. Is that from his
British era?
Earlier?
I think it's 38. So
yeah,
the first U.S. film I believe is Rebecca. So
he did that one.
Yeah.
No, that was a good one.
That was.
And I read the book.
Yeah.
So
there's another slowly going insane type movie. So there's a common theme going.
Right.
That one's good. And Suspicion. Did you ever see it with Joan Fontaine and Cary Grant?
I think I have, but maybe a long, long time ago. I feel like I've seen a lot of those big 40s. That was like, what, 40, 41?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you had a weird one. It was his only straightforward comedy. It was Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And not the Brad Pitt movie. But with Carol Lombard and Robert Montgomery. It's a straight-up comedy.
Yeah.
It's just about a fighting couple.
Which Carol Lombard did really well.
Yeah, exactly. We get into My Man Godfrey and things
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
It really is. So we have to, well, I won't.
No, go ahead. No.
But no, I was going to say, in the future, do a favorite black and white or favorite classics movie. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Mine would definitely be like the Thin Man series and things like
good,
that. Yeah, because I love William Powell. And My Man Godfrey. So.
Yeah, and him and Myrna Lloyd.
Oh, perfect.
Great chemistry. Yeah.
That would be a good one. Movie couples that weren't really couples, but they should have been like in real life because they were that good.
Yeah.
So. I think we talked about earlier, like Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas.
Yeah, exactly.
They would be good. Well, thank you, Celine.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, so we have a real round table this time. So we have Josephine and Malin and Danielle all together. One big happy Hitchcock family. Okay. All right, so again, you guys, whatever your favorite Hitchcock films are, let me know. Let me hear why. What he means to you, how it's changed your life, whatever. Whatever you're into, let me know. First, we'll go with Josephine. So what are your favorite or the films that you go back to the most?
I mean, I haven't seen a lot of Hitchcock film. Probably not as like a film scholar would. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite is probably Notorious, just because I really love Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant, and I don't know. It reminds me a little bit of Pride and Prejudice too, just because they both have these really strong feelings toward each other, and these preconceived notions about each other, and they're really fighting it up until the very end. Yeah. But I also really love Rear Window, and I really love Rope. I really like Jimmy Stewart a lot. So.
Rope's an interesting one because, like Rear Window, it's filmed in the one room, and you love doing that one room, one setting type of shooting. The other good thing about Notorious, that's also one of my top, is Claude Rains is so good at this as the villain. He really kind of makes it for me. Like even though Bergman and Grant are so good, you need that heavy. So.
And I just realized now, thinking of that guy, I forget his name.
Claude Rains?
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems to have that Hitchcock theme of
I think he's got mommy issues too, for sure. And did you feel bad for him in the end? I didn't.
No, he was despicable enough where he deserved what he got. Actually, he could have been a good villain on the last episode. He was, yeah.
I didn't feel bad for him at all because I mean, look at what he did to poor Ingrid Bergman.
He was drugging her the whole time.
Yeah. So,
which kind of reminds you of Gaslight.
Charles Boyer.
Exactly, because she was in that too.
Yeah, and that was the film. I mean, I'd heard a lot about Ingrid Bergman, but that was the film where I was like, wow, she can really act. It's not just she's this beautiful movie star. She can really act. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And actually, her husband would have been a good villain. The guy.
Yeah, very much. And then Rope's an interesting one. That's it's one of his shorter films, but really, I mean, it's got that one long continuous shot that was famous for. But yeah, that was a really good one. I love Jimmy Stewart, so that's a really good. Okay, Malin.
I'm really nervous to even participate in this one.
Why?
Because Hitchcock is, it's kind of an overwhelming category.
It is.
In terms
That's why we did it.
And not just that, but he's been like a really important influence to me since a very early age. So narrowing it down to favorite films. Shadow of a Doubt, I think, is just so compelling. I'm kind of thinking a bit stream of consciousness here, but his character development in a lot of films, I think, might be overlooked. And in Shadow of a Doubt, he does a really good job of spelling out the relationships and getting you really closely entwined into everything that's going on, and it kind of plays out in slow motion. It's like a family drama train crash that's just beautifully playing out in really slow motion. I love that movie. I also like Strangers on a Train immensely. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Patricia Hitchcock has...
She might. She's in a lot of his films.
Because
even in Psycho, she plays the secretary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Gosh, I want to think that she's in it. I haven't seen Strangers on a Train in a long time.
She might. I think you're right.
She was either in Shadow of a Doubt or Strangers on a Train.
Yeah.
And I want to kick myself for not being able to remember. But Strangers on a Train is just...
It's great.
Every shot is kind of perfect. The relationship between the two protagonists is just dubious enough to keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time.
It's a brilliant plot. I mean,
and I just love that there are no real good guys. Like everybody gets their hands dirty at one point, and you have mommy issues again. You have daddy issues. You have wife issues.
And a common theme with Hitchcock, you're always questioning your sanity. Like that someone in the film is always on the verge of losing it. So,
questioning sanity and guilt or innocence.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Stewart is always either like
oh
yeah, actually I wasn't even thinking that, but either insane or sane, battling that as well as battling. You're usually trying to prove his innocence, amongst what seem like insurmountable odds.
Like in Spellbound, it's like she's the that is a great scene with the whole weird. It was. I think it was Salvador Dali did did that crazy scene. That's a very underrated one too.
The Spellbound, going back a couple of other podcasts, could have been included in one of my most terrifying moments seen at an early age, where the child slides down the banister and lands on the fence. Oh, that scarred me.
Yes. That would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Nobody picked that.
But he's just so good at kind of setting the scene, and to the point where you know what is probably going to happen, and you don't know how it's going to happen, and then you just have to watch it play out, and it's so deliciously excruciating.
Yeah. Well, that's why Rear Window's so good. Because you're with Jimmy Stewart, basically. You're like the guy with the broken legs sitting there watching everything happen, and it's like you can do nothing about it. It's like get away, the Raymond Burr's coming, type of thing. So,
and not just that, but with Rear Window, and I think The Birds as well. Something that makes those really increasingly taught is that they become more and more claustrophobic. The beginning of Rear Window, it's all about the view outside.
Yeah.
And as the movie goes on, the room that he's in gets darker, and the camera starts, I think, getting more involved in the room.
Yeah.
And when it's looking out, it's taking close-ups of the action in the window.
Yeah.
And so it tightens in, it constricts. The Birds does that as well.
Yeah.
Where you start with these beautiful vistas of San Francisco, the Bay, the drive to Bodega Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And as the movie kind of plays out, it gets closer and closer until you're in this
that house
with no escape at all.
It's all boarded up.
Not even different rooms.
That's right.
You go into the wrong room and they get you.
Yeah.
So. I think what's really good about Hitchcock is that I feel like with like the whole conflict too is people kind of giving in to their baser, darker instincts or like desires. And I feel like sometimes people are trying to like fight against that, and maybe Jimmy still represents that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I always feel like people kind of give in, and that's when everything kind of goes crazy. Yeah.
I did want to mention one more favorite, just really quickly. So Frenzy, I think, is maybe one of... I don't hear enough good stuff about it, which makes me think that either I don't get Hitchcock, I have really bad taste, or I'm just out on a limb here. But the dark humor in that film is just so pitch perfect.
I agree.
From the first scene, which I think is fascinating, because the way I remember it is there is a politician speaking about getting rid of the pollution in the Thames River.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the speech, he's interrupted by someone who notices the first corpse in the river.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that was darkly deliberate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And the whole movie plays out.
Not to give away my list, but I'm going to. Number 9 is Frenzy on my top 10. Yay. So, yes. A lot of people just haven't seen it. And I think they just kind of, after The Birds, people just kind of like gave up on Hitchcock. I don't know why, because there's good stuff after 1963. But no, Frenzy is totally underrated, especially if you like murder mysteries and Jack the Ripper type stories.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Okay, Danielle, you're going to have to jump in here because she's too busy playing on her phone. But you're researching, right?
No, I did not. So my favorite movie, I like Psycho.
Psycho.
Yes. For me, it's amazing, especially now. I like it when I watched like a few years ago. But now I like more because I'm watching Bates Motel. And then I think it's so brilliant how they're doing the link, how they are explaining Norman's childhood,
right.
And then kind of getting the relationship with the mother and how he became, yes. So, that's my favorite movie from him. And
that's the thing about Psycho. Like, they really don't explain why he's like that.
Exactly.
I mean, you get hints, but it would have been interesting. I don't think Hitchcock, he never did a sequel, so that would have been interesting to have a prequel.
And now with this movie series, which is not as good, of course, it's not so good, but they are making the link, so you can get where he's... Not that I want to explain his actions, but like how he grew up, what happened to him to become like that. So that's why I like Psycho even more now. Because I understand better the movie.
So have you rewatched Psycho since?
I did.
Yeah. So you appreciate it more now?
Yes, it's pretty good. And yesterday I was watching a movie actually that reminded me Hitchcock movies. It is Backtrack, I guess the movie that you ever watch. He's a psychiatric and he has something in his past and he started having all these visions and you don't know, watching, you don't know what's real and what is not. And it was like, oh my god, this is kind of Hitchcock in a way. I don't know, it just grabs your attention. I like that movie too.
So those are the main ones. Did you guys watch any of his early British films, or any of those come into mind, like from the 30s or anything?
Yeah, Stage Fright.
I think Stage Fright was probably in the...
Was that when that was still British, right?
I want to say no, like it was past. So pre-Rebecca, I think. So movies like...
Oh, no, I just looked up Stage Fright's 1950.
Yeah, so that's actually not a bad one with Gene Wyman and Marlene Dietrich, I think, is in it.
Yeah, that's like All About Eve.
Yeah, it is actually. That's a good one. I'm trying to think there's Saboteur and there was Sabotage. I always get those confused for obvious reasons.
The Man Who Knew Too Much.
The original?
Which you can speak of both ways.
Yeah.
Because he didn't do a sequel for a film, but he did
remake. That's true.
He did do remakes.
Did you so which one do you like better? The one with Peter Lorre, which is the original, or the one with Doris Day and Jimmy Stewart?
I have to say that I think the Peter Lorre one has a a bit more character and atmosphere in terms of the filming and direction. I don't know why, but I think that I prefer the older one.
Okay. Did you ever see The Lady Vanishes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Adore it. Yeah. That's talk about a woman who you just can't help but fall for.
Yeah.
Within like minutes. The actress was great. I think.
Yeah.
Now, did she get an Oscar?
I don't know.
For that, or no, she wouldn't have.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Or maybe something.
I know
think
Dane
it was one of her last roles. I think.
So Dane May Whitty plays Mrs. Froy. She's the one that actually is the lady that vanishes.
Yeah.
But the main, I can't remember her name, but I
And
think
she
it's
really vanishes or what?
Well, that's the point. I mean, that's the questioning your sanity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the
that's
woman's like, I saw Mrs. Froy, and nobody had even heard of her. So it's kind of interesting. You could almost call this movie "Strangers on a Train" too, but because it's on a train the whole time.
I saw a remake of Lady Vanishes. Wasn't there like a PBS remake
There's been a
of
couple,
it?
I think.
Yeah. But
I need to look
It
for
has me confused as well.
Oh, I'm watching Hitchcock Presents.
The TV show.
Yes, 26 minutes, made on love with
Yeah.
the opening every time.
No, it's an iconic opening.
He presents really well,
Yeah.
like the plot, how he says. I like watching him, and this is quick. And I watched Revenge yesterday, and it's interesting. It kind of, I don't know, I got a little lost. I need to watch that again because I didn't understand that much.
Alfred Hitchcock Presents, as Dane was pointing out, because he really wasn't into the movies, he's more into the show. It predates Twilight Zone, so I think maybe Twilight Zone was inspired by. Yeah.
Yes, because I watched Twilight Zone a lot,
Oh,
many times, and I can see the influence.
similarity.
Yes, it's very similar.
But I think it was also one of the first instances where a director of a film became a marketable character.
Yeah.
In addition to all of the work that he was doing,
Right.
It really he really pushed that forward with the TV series. Because in addition to the movies, I was obsessed with Hitchcock as the presenter for the show because I just can't get enough of his humor. I grew up on it. I think it's great, especially for this time of year now that we're getting close to Halloween.
Yeah.
But also he produced a bunch of books with short stories, like with short stories by like Richard Matheson, people who were writing for Alfred Hitchcock Presents and The Twilight Zone and other series. And yeah, I just devoured all of those. And Alfred Hitchcock Magazine.
Yeah.
Which I have to credit for getting me into grad school because I read them all, and they had these kind of catch a thief or catch a murderer logic puzzles in each one. Back when the GRE had logic games, I was like, "This is easy." Because I've been doing them from like as a kid.
Yeah,
and, so that was great.
Well, he's the only director I know that was in all of his movies. I mean, Tarantino kind of does it a little bit, but it wasn't as fun. And it's not fun like
Woody
Hitchcock.
Allen, he does.
Woody Allen,
Mel
it's
Brooks
different.
too.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks isn't.
That's a good point. But what's interesting, and Brian Provenzali brought it up, that in Notorious, it's one of the few times Hitchcock's in the film where he actually moves the plot along, because it's in that the wine cellar scene. He's actually in it, where usually he's in the beginning, because he doesn't want to take away from the plot, because he doesn't want you to be fully involved. Oh, there's Hitchcock, and then you get out of the moment. So I always found that interesting.
So you were asking then how Hitchcock changed their life, right?
I was being facetious, but yeah.
No, what are you gonna say?
Okay.
It's like when you take a shower and you hear a noise, it's never that scene. I always come back to mind. Like you're alone and you hear a noise. It's like it's that scene that comes.
I'd say the shower scene is definitely iconic. I think Mount Rushmore for North by Northwest. Even Cary Grant falling to the dirt when the prop plane is going over him. I mean, there's so many classic.
Yeah.
Even Rear Window. I mean, just all that.
Yeah, I mean, you can see. Yeah, you can see a lot of influences. Like, did you guys see Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy?
No, but I heard about it. Yeah,
there's a scene that I always think of Rear Window where this guy's kind of looking at this building, and he's just kind of seeing, like this building has like all like windows, and you can see what's going on in each room. As it's going, in real time. It's totally Rear Window.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's plenty. I mean, we could do probably just an episode on movies that aren't direct remakes of Hitchcock movies, but
are definitely inspired by.
So basically, Brian De Palma.
Yeah, it's true. Like a lot of his movies.
Also, the music.
Yes, the scores.
Herman in particular, great, amazing music. Yeah. I think most people, when they think of Psycho, they think of the shower scene and the shrill screeching violins. Yep. But the rest of the music in that film is really interesting.
Oh yeah,
and beautiful.
Yeah,
actually. Yes. I had a chance to hear it performed live by the LA Symphonic around Halloween time another year, and it's just amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
I know.
So this backtrack movie that I watched yesterday, there's a scene in a train that he's watching through the window, and the train comes, and there's this dead people staring at him. It was like, this is so Hitchcock. Like, that scene is so Twilight Zone too. Like, very remarkable on that.
Special thanks to everyone that decided to be on the podcast. It's always a pleasure having people come on the show that are enthusiastic, and we keep getting a great reception. The episodes keep getting better and better, so thank you for that. So there were 2 films that could have made my top 10 list, but again, I had to narrow it down to 10, and that's always difficult. One being Shadow of a Doubt, which was discussed by both Samantha and Malin, I believe, and Saboteur, which not to be confused with Sabotage. Saboteur is again one of my favorite Hitchcock movies that isn't that well known. I believe it came out in 42 or 43, and that had Robert Cummings and Priscilla Lane. So that's a kind of a cool World War II espionage type movie. So you might want to check that one out too. One of my friends, Michaela, also affectionately known as Mika, couldn't be on the podcast, but she wanted to share that her favorite Hitchcock movie is Rear Window, and that was number 2 on my list too. It's hard to disagree. Mika also said how she loved how Hitchcock played with point of view shots and his clever cinematography. It's just a really fun movie. And then my other very good friend from San Francisco, Alen, was nice enough to hear about our podcast and decided to send me a very cool book entitled Footsteps in the Fog, which is an Alfred Hitchcock book which covers all of the famous scenes that he filmed in the San Francisco Bay Area. So this is special to me because this is where I grew up, this is where I live. So thank you again, Alen. That was a very, very sweet gift of you. I can't wait to get through it. All right, so we have to do the plugs. All right, I say this every week, but we need iTunes reviews. We need to rate the show and review the show, because the more people that rate and review, the higher in the algorithm we get, the more people listen to your wonderful interviews. So let's do that. Also, we're on Podbean at damngoodmovies.podbean.com. We have our own YouTube page, so be sure to check out Damn Good Movie Memories there as well. And of course, check out the Facebook page so you can get the latest updates whenever we post. All right, that's it for now. Signing off.